All right, here we are. Welcome back to another Sound Guy podcast. I am your host, Andrew Harris, and today we're going to be talking about quality in the context of sound recording and how to make a good quality sound recording. I just want to make sure we can change this view around a little bit to make things more interesting for us, because we have this podcast being recorded in video format as well as audio only. So if you wanted to see my happy little face on camera, you can go to YouTube, look up Andrew the Guy Harris, and find this podcast in the podcast listing on the YouTube channel, and then you can enjoy this with a visual aspect as well. So today we're going to talk about sound and the importance of quality in that, and why we do that. And then more importantly, I guess, what quality is. How do we define it? Like, what is good and what is bad? We know after the effect what is good and what is bad, but it's too late then. The recording has been made, money's been invested, time has been spent, vice versa. And so you can't easily go back and re-record it. You can re-record it, obviously, but there's a lot of money and time involved, so it gets annoying. So the idea is we try and get the best quality we can before it's determined that it's a really bad quality audio recording. Now, the link there between projects and movies is reasonably strong, actually, because what's happening is, just like a project, we've got a unique undertaking which has got a definite start date and a definite end date, and it's got a defined budget and therefore constraints around that, which is pretty much the definition of a project. It's a unique undertaking with a definite start, definite finish, and a budget set aside. So there's a direct correlation there between the two. In the project management world, quality is treated as a separate subject and given a greater degree of importance than in most other undertakings. There's a guy that I learned about when I was doing my diploma of project management, and the quality component was emphasized as being one of the four pillars. So quality, cost, time, and scope. And if you keep the quality at a high level, you can adjust the others and affect time and cost in particular without compromising the quality. But a lot of people don't talk about that four parts of project management being important. They focus really on three only, which is time, cost, and scope, at the expense of quality. And I think that's what's happening in a lot of endeavors that we humans undertake, and especially in sound. I've seen a lot of people not really give the importance to sound that they could. Video often is given much more priority, I guess, because we're talking about movies, and most people associate movies with a visual aspect. But the common denominator is that you've got a story which is being told, whether that's visually or just auditorily, so through hearing. When the video is taken away, you can still get the essence of a story. But if you take the auditory component away from a video, yes, you can tell a story with video, but it's not as clear what the message is. With a spoken word, you can definitely get to the story much more easily, and it's much more easily understood. And likewise, if you're watching a poor quality movie but has a high quality audio, you can get through that reasonably well. But the reverse is not so true. If you have a very poor quality audio and a really high quality video, a lot of people will just switch off because you can't hear what's actually being said, and it's very distracting. So it's got a pretty high importance, the sound side of things. And that's where I'm coming from to try and help us understand how to get good quality recordings and why it's important. Because, back to the old standard, time is money, money is time. And so we want to try and save that time and money by making a good reproduction of sound at the source as opposed to fixing in post. So quality, the definition of quality, which I really like, is around adherence to design tolerance. A lot of people listen to that and think, what? What the heck does that mean? As opposed to just the general, what's the word I'm going to use here? The general look and feel of quality. You can tell when you're dealing with a quality car or quality item. It has this weightiness, this feel to it. It's hard to measure it, but that is what we're actually doing. We're measuring the quality of something through a set of senses that we have in our body. So you're lifting something and you're feeling that it's got more weight than something which is easier to damage, for example. So a car, if you press against a panel and you can bend the metal and leave a dent, you're thinking to yourself, that's not really good quality. What we're doing is we're measuring those aspects of components or parts or characteristics of an object. And in project management, that's done through measurement. And luckily for us, in the audio world, we have lots and lots of ways to measure sound, because sound is basically air pressure against eardrums, and then the brain picks up those changes to interpret that as sound. And so sound we've got in terms of sound levels, so decibels, and we're aiming to have our recordings between -12 and -6 dB. On most devices, we've got dB measurements, so we can measure things in that manner. We've got things like bit depth, so the dynamic range of the sound we're recording, whether it's 24-bit, 32-bit. So you can use that as a measure as well of better quality. So obviously the more granular the recording, 32-bit, then the better quality it's going to be as well. Or it will lend itself to being able to be manipulated with more ease down the track as well. So it's got a longevity, I guess, of life to it. So we can manipulate the sound later if we need to. There's other aspects as well. So things like file naming of sound recordings. If we take a lazy approach and just let the default sound names from devices be allocated to sound files, then it makes it very difficult for editors to understand which sound file belongs to which piece of video. That kind of thing. So we have ways of measuring sound, and when you've got ways of measuring sound, for example dB, we can say I want the sound to be recorded between -12 and -6 dB with a tolerance of plus and minus 3 decibels. So someone externally can come through and look at our recordings, play them back, and see if they're being see if they're in tolerance or they're inside of the tolerances that we've specified. And in that way, we can kind of guarantee a quality outcome. I hope that makes sense. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of our approach to sound recording. We can increase our quality by reducing the tolerances. So instead of saying plus minus 3 dB, we can say we'll keep those recordings between -12 dB and -6 dB with a tolerance of plus minus 1 dB, for example. That would be a higher quality than ones being offered at plus minus 3 dB. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of measuring and ensuring quality. Then we get closer to the specification that our editor, our director, or whoever is wanting our recordings, they're able to get a more specified specific quality that they're after. And in that way, we have a way of improving our recordings as well. So over time, we can say, I've progressed from my initial stages of recording. Now I am a more professional recordist, and I can demonstrate that through the sound recordings that I've got, which, are a higher quality. So that is what I'm talking about in terms of quality. And it really does impact the entire movie-making process, because when you can guarantee or have some kind of level of quality that you adhere to, you can help those triple constraints that we talked about earlier, the scope, time, cost, by adding another equally important component, just quality. So instead of the 3 scope, time, cost around a project, we have quality, scope, time, cost. And if we don't move quality but keep that at a high level, we can adjust the scope to automatically then adjust the time and the cost of a project, and especially like in a movie. So for an example, if we wanted to have a VFX kind of a sci-fi movie, if we wanted to reduce the cost, the time, and the scope of that movie, we'd basically reduce the VFX components, for an example, and then automatically reduce that time spent in the VFX world, but still keep the quality of what we're remaining to do in the scope. I can hear it playing in the background. Maybe you can too. So reducing scope, for example, and taking out VFX, and then substituting that with some other form of visual representation, we keep quality, reduce the scope, reduce the time, and then reduce the cost. But if we instead try to reduce the quality, that impacts the entire project. It doesn't reduce the scope. It potentially blows out the time and therefore blows out the cost, because you have to redo things. And that's what we're trying to eliminate here, is stopping ourselves having to redo work. And that's what this guy, W. Edwards Deming, was really on about, was systems thinking and reducing rework. And in sound, you can't even reproduce sometimes what it is you've recorded, because it's such a unique set of circumstances. So if you have, like we just experienced there, a plane going overhead while I'm talking and saying specific words in a specific rhythm in a specific time, to reproduce that exactly will be very, very difficult. And to try to do that, you're going to spend a lot of time and money to try to achieve that result. So what I'm saying is, it's better to try to get the quality result the first time without having to rework. Same thing as in the movie world, where we do multiple takes of the same scene. We're trying to basically get the perfect take. So with the sound, the actors' lines, the lighting, everything is working in unison together to make this unique scene, this unique shot. And if we don't perfect it, we try again, and we try again, and we try again. That is the definition of basically what the quality focus that I'm talking about is. Another aspect of W. Edwards Deming's work in quality was this cycle, the plan, do, study, act. So you plan something, you do it, you study it, and then you adjust it and act again, and repeat that cycle. And it's a repetitive cycle where you go through that whole, an example of the movie, you retake that whole shot over and over again until it's perfect. And that encompasses the quality approach. So you're not adjusting the quality side of things, but you might, for example, shorten the lines, therefore reduce the scope, and then make it easier to get a good quality outcome. in that approach, you're, like I said, keeping quality high and trying to get that the best take that we can have to make a good quality outcome. It's a kind of a complicated but simple idea. It's complicated because no one likes the idea of repeating things over and over again. It's quite boring. It's quite unprofitable when it's done to the extreme. But when it's perfected and done well, it actually leads to more profits because you're reducing the time in rework. And that's the focus, is reducing time in rework, which can be summarized as being more efficient. So efficiency is the thing that Edwards Deming was really focusing on. And the best way to get there is through a quality focus. And when you have that quality focus leading to efficiency, you have no other logical outcome except a profitable result. And that's why quality leads to profitable, a profitable kind of a business or a profitable plan, because of that quality focus. Quality leading to efficiency, leading to reduced cost, leading to a profitable outcome.
Nice.
There you go. That's my take on quality and why it's important, and how we as sound recorders can actually not guarantee all the time, but certainly improve over time so our quality improves as well, and we can have a better outcome. And so where do we go from here? What is it that I want us to take away from this? What I think I would like to see happen is writers, editors, directors, all parts of the movie world work together, which is, I think, is what all of us do anyway, naturally, in the movie world environment. We want to help each other achieve a good outcome. And so there's ways we can do that in our different roles, but especially in the sound recording area, through that idea of measuring what we're doing and then seeing if we can improve that measurement to make the tolerance a little bit tighter, and then have a better outcome over and over and over again in all that we do. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of more ways we can improve things there, but I can't, to be honest. That's it. The quality approach, I think, is the way to go. Trying to think of anything else I can add there. There's not. There you have it. Quality focus, guys. See if we can do it. I'm committed to it. I've seen the results in my own work in IT project management, and I've seen the results in the approach to the sound that I've been involved in the small number of movies that I've enjoyed making with newfound friends in the sound world and the movie world. It does work. I'm trying to sound humble, but at the same time, it's impossible to do that with what I'm going to say, because I'm really proud of where I've come from. Like, I know I've been playing around in sound for quite a number of years, but not in a semi-professional, trending towards professional kind of capability where I'm wanting to be now. So I'm really setting myself up to be a professional sound recordist, and I've been doing that since November last year. And it's gotten to the point now where I'm really proud of the sound recording that I'm able to reproduce, and I'm convinced it's because of that approach to the quality side of things. So it's not just the equipment, but it is obviously equipment which helps play a large part in the role. But it's more understanding the limitations of the equipment, and then how to gauge those tolerances and the measurements in particular that are going to lead to a good quality outcome, and then trying things out and seeing where the gaps are and filling those gaps with more and more good technology. The examples that I'm thinking of when I started, 32-bit float wasn't really readily available, and I was using 24-bit equipment. So paying attention to gain levels was one of the big things for me. Just making sure that I was not overly hot, I guess, on the recordings, so things wouldn't clip. That kind of a thing. Then with the advent of 32-bit float, that opened up the dynamic range for audio recordings. So the good thing, I think, with that was the attention to the detail that I was paying to 24-bit recording kind of followed into the 32-bit world, where it's not completely necessary, but it still gives a really good sound when the gain levels are set correctly. So I still look at the gain levels so that I can get an optimal sound even in 32-bit float, whereas a lot of people say it's not necessary. But I don't know, there's something about the sound when it's recorded well that even in 32-bit float is important to the quality outcome. It leads to a whole lot of other areas too, like even the choice of cables. So some cables have a crackling noise after a while when things start to wear and tear. So a good quality cable, and then how to look after those good quality cables so you can have a long life with those as well. There's a particular way to wrap the cables. So you, as an example, I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here with wrapping of cables. So if I use this iPhone Lightning cable as an example, this is where the video will come in handy. Instead of wrapping the cable one loop at a time around and around and around like so, the better, see how it all unfurls like a whip? The better approach is to do a twist from one hand to the other and then a reverse twist, and inside of that previous twist and then another twist such as this. It leads to less twisting of the internal wires and longevity then of the cable itself. So there's little things like that you learn over time that you apply, and it just helps having an overall quality approach to everything that you're doing, and it really helps a lot. It sounds, like I said before, it sounds tedious and it sounds really boring and not that important, but all those little boring, not that important things lead to that quality outcome that I personally am looking for. And I think that is what has helped me get to the point now where I'm getting a lot of word-of-mouth referrals from the friends I've made who recognise there's a pretty good sound which is coming out of the work that this guy does. Again, that's kind of sounding very big notish, but I can't think of a way to help emphasise the importance of quality, a quality approach. And it's been demonstrated in big industry, like car manufacturers in particular. So Toyota, for example, with Toyota Quality Management, their approach to quality and their feedback loop in particular. So they've got people on the production line which report back to management, telling them where problems are, and the management then listening to them and adjusting the systems that they're working under to make the production more efficient. And it actually works. The Japanese have got a very good reputation for their vehicles as being reliable, and it's because the components last longer because they're manufactured to a more stringent tolerance. They did an experiment comparing Ford engineers, Ford components in America against Japanese components in similar cars. I can't remember the make or model now, but there was a car that was common to Japan and America, and components were swapped between America and Japan for the cars produced locally. And the Japanese components lasted a lot longer than the Americans, simply because of that attention to detail and focus on quality, and especially around tolerances. So it sounds tedious and it sounds boring, but it's super, super, super important. And it really makes a world of difference, and you can see it in the way that others treat what you're producing. It's really, really interesting. So I will leave you with that. A quality focus is what I'm recommending, especially measurements and especially tolerances. And it's amazing where it leads you, because you then are feeding back to people that you work with and supply your output to, and their expectation then is reset, so that when others bring their output to them to use, they're going to be comparing that new input to them from the input that you're giving them. So what I'm talking about, inputs, outputs, I'm talking about you give them a sound file, an editor, for example, and the editor looks at the quality of the sound coming from your equipment and from you and compares it to someone else. And if yours just sounds better, it's not hard to tell who they're going to be asking to do more work for them. Obviously, the person with the better sound. So it has a direct correlation on your earning capacity and your earnings, full stop. So if you want to make more money, focus on quality. There's a lot to it. Yeah, it's good. And it opens up more and more and more opportunities for you. So, for example, in the sound world, you would think it's just sound that you're supplying, but there's actually an interface between sound and cameras. And the interface I'm talking about is timecode. Now, timecode is predominantly used when there's more cameras being used on single recording, like audio recording devices. And timecode is used to sync up the audio to the various video sources. And it's one of the more reliable ways of doing it, down to the frame. So per frame, syncing from audio to each single frame produced on each camera, leads to an editor reducing the time spent syncing up sound and audio, like through the roof. You can, software nowadays, basically you can sync up the sound to various video sources with timecode in literally a matter of seconds. And that obviously has an impact on an editor's workflow. So again, leading to profits, because it's less rework and less wasted time. So with the approach of a quality focus for sound, if you offer really good quality sound plus timecode, you're ahead of a lot of sound people. A lot of sound people do not value timecode, do not understand it, haven't put time into developing a system where they can offer timecode. So I'm offering timecode now to my clients. Some take it up, some don't, but it's there on the table. If they want timecode, I can provide that. That puts me ahead of a lot of sound engineers. There's a Facebook group that I belong to, and when I mentioned who does timecode, there weren't any that were offering timecode. It was more like that's a video camera function. It's not something to worry about, and no one's asked me for it, so I'm not offering it. And I'm offering it, so I'm setting myself apart from the pack by doing things like that. And that's what I'd suggest that you do as well. You find things that cinematographers, DOPs, directors, videographers, filmmakers find value in, and see if you can integrate that in what you're offering as well to set yourself apart. When you do that, and you do it to a quality standard, your quality standard, which is high and always improving, then you will always have something above and beyond other people coming in after you. So there's lots of benefits for a quality focus. It is a quality focus podcast, this episode, so I've harped on it quite a lot. It's been a long episode, so I'm glad that you're here to the end to hopefully understand the rewards that you can reap from a quality focus. I'm going to leave that there with you. So thank you for your attention and your willingness to listen or watch, and we'll catch up with you the next time. Okay, take it easy now. Bye for now.